eclipses of the moon and the sun, and the sudden appearance of bright stars. There are also ancient monuments dating from that time, including Stonehenge in England, that may have been used as astronomical observatories to track the sun and stars. The earliest written records of astronomy come from the Sumerians and later the Babylonians in Mesopotamia in current-day Iraq. These include the very first catalogues of the stars, etched into clay tablets in the 12th century BC. Astronomers were also active in ancient China and Greece by the first few centuries BC. Though these first astronomers had only their eyes to use as tools, by the first few centuries BC, the Babylonians had begun to identify the moving planets, distinguishing them from the fixed backdrop of stars, and carefully charting their positions night after night. They began to keep systematic astronomical diaries, which led them to discover regular patterns in the movements of the planets and in the occurrence of particular events in the night sky, including the eclipses of the moon. Nobody knew quite what those objects and events in the night sky were, but they could make mathematical models that could predict where the planets and the moon would be seen, night after night. Despite these considerable advances, great uncertainty remained as to how the heavenly bodies were configured and what they were made of. Which was at the centre of everything, the Earth or the Sun? The realization that, in fact, neither was, that the universe does not have a centre, would only come many years later. In the 4th century BC, the Greek philosopher Aristotle put forward a model based on ideas by earlier Greek astronomers and philosophers, including Plato, that put the Earth at the centre of the universe. The sun, moon, planets, and stars were fixed in unchanging and rotating concentric spheres centred on the Earth. Aristotle presumed that the heavens were different to Earth in both composition and behaviour, imagining the celestial spheres to be made of a fifth transparent element known as the ether. In the 3rd century BC, the Greek astronomer Aristarchus of Samos came up with the alternative suggestion that, in fact, the sun might be at the centre of everything, and that it was light from the sun that was illuminating the moon. This heliocentric, or sun-centred, model would better explain the observed motion of the planets and the changes in their brightness. Though we know now that this model is accurate, at least for our solar system, Aristarchus' astronomical ideas were rejected during his lifetime and would take over 1,000 years to be accepted. Defenders of geocentrism, favouring an Earth-centred universe, had some apparently strong arguments on their side. For example, if the Earth moves, why do the stars not shift relative to each other, as our viewpoint from a moving Earth changes? In fact, they do, but the movement is extremely slight because the stars are so far away. Aristarchus suspected this to be true, but had no way to demonstrate it. The erroneous Earth-centred model continued to prevail when it was adopted by Claudius Ptolemy, a highly regarded scholar from Alexandria in Roman Egypt, living in the 2nd century AD. He wrote one of the earliest books on astronomy, the Almagest, which detailed 48 constellations of the known stars, along with tables that could predict both the past and future positions of the planets in the night sky. Many of these came from an earlier star catalogue of almost 1,000 stars compiled by the Greek astronomer Hipparchus. Ptolemy declared in his Almagest that the Earth must be at the centre of everything, and his influence was so great that the idea was to dominate for centuries. The Almagest was a central astronomical text for years afterwards, and was expanded upon by generations of astronomers who followed. During the Middle Ages, most progress in astronomy took place far from Europe and the Mediterranean, notably in Persia, China, and India. In 964, the Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi wrote the Book of Fixed Stars, a beautifully illustrated Arabic text detailing the stars constellation by constellation. It combined the star catalogue and constellations from Ptolemy's Almagest with traditional Arabic depictions of the imaginary objects or creatures traced out by the star patterns.